We're heading to Yorkshire, a Northern Monks Don't Mess with Yorkshire series. This is a rhubarb and crumble pale ale. This can is fairly plain, but very bright, and it's got the colours of rhubarb and custard. But what's it going to be like? Keep on watching to find out. Welcome back to Rocker's Beer Review. Today we're going to be reviewing this beer. This is a Don't Mess with Yorkshire Rhubarb and Crumble Pale Ale from Northern Monk. Now, we've had a Don't Mess with Yorkshire, just a standard pale ale. I think they've Don't Mess with Yorkshire Bitter. We haven't had, but they do that as well. Fairly plain can. I mean, this is a plain, I don't know, is this part of the Don't Mess with Yorkshire? We say what we say what we mean, and and this is what it is, because there's none of the Northern Monk sort of, the logo with the sort of face on it. It's just a lovely bright pink can, yellow writing, signifying pink for rhubarb and the yellow for custard. Now, we've had a rhubarb and custard beer before, and that was with Brew York, another Yorkshire brewery. And I think, but I'm not sure if that was a pale ale or that was a sour beer. But it was all right. It was quite sweet, if I remember rightly. And if you watch, you can check that video out on my channel. Just search Rhubarb and Custard, I think. I mean, I did sing the theme tune to the cartoon Rhubarb and Custard, and hence why I'm not going to do it again, because I've done it already. But this is 4.5%, and I had a quick look at the hops. It's got Sentinel, Chinook and Mosaic. So a strange sort of trio of hops there. And I'm not sure what I'm expecting from this. Am I going to expect to pour this out and it's going to be pink and rhubarb coloured, or is it going to be like a pale ale, but just with a subtleness of rhubarb and crumble? Well, rhubarb and crumble, rhubarb and custard. The only way to find out is to crack this beer open, stick it in a glass, see what it's all about. Okay, so straight away, it's looking like a sort of standard sort of pale ale, fairly light. Yeah, I mean, that's a pale ale. You wouldn't necessarily think that was a rhubarb and custard sort of one. 2 fingers of white head, fairly compacted, and we've got a slightly hazy, light yellow, very light straw coloured beer. So it looks like a normal pale ale. Let's see if we get these aromas from it. Oh, that smells really sweet. Oh, but it smells great though, really, really good. So, I mean, does it smell like fresh rhubarb? No. Does it smell like fresh custard? No. But does it smell like the rhubarb and custard boiled sweets? Absolutely. That is the aroma that this has. It smells really, really good. Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to capture that aroma from a boiled rhubarb and custard boiled sweet, that has definitely got it. And I'm excited about it now because it looks like a normal pale ale. So I'm hoping that the flavour's there, but it still tastes like a beer, opposed to like a sour or something a bit more funkier. But let's see what it's like. Cheers, everyone. It's very light, refreshing. It tastes like a pale ale, and you think, oh, this is it's an averagey sort of pale ale. It hasn't got a huge amount. When you first taste it, you think, haven't really got much of those sort of beery flavours. There's not the malts or the sort of the yeast and the things that make it a beer. But within a few seconds, you're suddenly getting this. I think the aroma, as you're drinking it, you're getting the aroma, and you're getting this rhubarb and custard sweet. It's as if you just plonked in a couple of sweets into a beer, and it needs it, to be honest. I think without that sort of taste, it would be a very, very average and fairly light pale ale. But rhubarb and custard sweets. I'd almost say the custard is almost a little bit more overpowering than the rhubarb is, which is surprising because rhubarb can be quite overpowering as a fruit anyway. You're not getting that tartness that you would get with fresh rhubarb, that sort of sour tartness where we've had that before in a sour beer. You're just getting that boiled sweet flavour, and it's so light. I mean, the carbonation in there is, I'd almost say it's a little bit of carbonation there that just gets those flavours going. And I think the way that it's been put together is quite clever in that you drink it and you know it's beer, and then it's almost like, are you tasting that rhubarb and custard, or is the aroma sort of really filling up the nose, and then you're getting that flavour come in? Because it's quite surprising that as soon as you drink it, you think, yeah, I'm drinking a very sort of light, not huge amounts of flavour pale ale, very sort of almost bland pale ale. But it takes a few seconds and then you're getting that wave of the rhubarb and custard boiled sweet. And I think it works pretty well, actually. And obviously, as you're drinking it, you're going to get the aroma. I mean, it still smells incredible. I'd say that on the back end, it does taste a little bit light and a bit watery, and it needs a little bit more. I mean, if I put a bit more oats in it, maybe, you know, it just is so light. It needs a little bit more in its body. But as a sort of quirky one-off drink, there's no denying it. It definitely tastes like a rhubarb and custard sweet, and it's a bit of fun. You know, it's definitely a fun beer, and whether I would want to keep drinking loads of it, probably not. As a pale ale, it's lacking a lot, I think. And if it didn't have that rhubarb and custard flavour coming through, it would be, you know, it'd almost be tasteless. You'd be wondering if it was an alcohol-free. That's the sort of blandness and flavour, like an alcohol-free beer. But the rhubarb and custard comes into it and just makes it a little bit more enjoyable. Yeah, don't mess with Yorkshire, I'd say. Let's get some scores. Okay, the scores are in for Don't Mess With Yorkshire Rhubarb and Custard Pale Ale from the Northern Monk. The Northern Monk, obviously based in Yorkshire, in Leeds. Yeah, it's a very interesting one. You can look at it on the shelf and you think, rhubarb and custard, that sounds weird and strange. Good to have it, got to try it. And I'm glad that I've tried it. And to me, it's better than some of the sort of rhubarb and custard sours, because there's no sourness in this beer. But there's an element of it that's lacking a little bit. It's a little bit too quirky for its own good. But we'll go through the scores and I'll talk a bit more about that. So first things first, aroma. Well, I mean, this is a great score for aroma, really, because as soon as you put it to your nose, you get that sweet rhubarb and custard. And the custard is the more... With rhubarb and custard, you think, oh, it's rhubarb with a little creaminess. It's a rhubarb sort of aroma, rhubarb taste with a creaminess of the custard. But actually, the custard smell is probably more overpowering than the rhubarb is. But ultimately, it smells like a rhubarb and custard boiled sweet. So if you can imagine what that smells like, that's pretty much what this is. But that smells great. I love that smell. Sweet, custardy, really inviting. You think, oh, this is just going to be like a boiled sweet in a beer form. I'm giving it 17 for aroma. It's a pretty damn high score, but it does smell really good. Appearance-wise, well, it's a hazy pale ale. We've got a little bit of, a little sliver of head there left. It's yellowy. It's pretty pale ale-esque. It's got a haze, but it's not the thickest of haze. It's pretty much a solid 8 out of 10. Flavour-wise, well, as I've said earlier on in the video, when you first take a sip, firstly you get that you're getting that aroma as you drink it. And the first sip is, it's a pale ale with it's lacking in flavour. And then the rhubarb and custard sort of comes in and you think, yep, it's rhubarb and custard. But your mind's a little bit confused of whether you're smelling that or tasting it. I mean, actually, let's try that. I'm going to hold my nose so I don't smell it. I'd almost say that when you taste it without smelling it, you're getting a lot of you get a little bit more of the fruit of the rhubarb than your other custard. But when you smell it, when you just drink it normally, like a normal person would, you get the big wave of this custard that's just beautiful. I mean, custard in a beer, you think, oh, it can't work, but it does. Really does work. But as a pale ale, your first tasting are quite a bland pale ale, and it's almost like you've drank this pale ale, and you're just about to go, oh, it's disappointing, and then it's like, bang, there's your rhubarb and custard. Boiled sweet, boom. It's almost like as if you drank a bland pale ale, stuck a rhubarb and custard sweet in your mouth. It's the same sort of experience. It's almost like it's separate from the actual, the pale ale itself. You've got a bland pale ale, and then someone's giving you a rhubarb and custard sweet, you taste it and you think, oh yeah, I'll get that flavour now because it's overpowering. So I think as a balance, it doesn't quite work as well as it should. It's very thin, it's very light. The carbonation, we've got a little bit of zest, a little bit of fizzy carbonation there. It's a standard pale ale type of carbonation, sort of medium carbonation. But I think it just feels like there's you're getting the pale ale, and then you're getting the sweet flavour, and they're quite separate, you know, opposed to you want to taste it, and the first bit, mouthful you want is the rhubarb. Then you want a bit of custard, that's what you want. But you're getting a blandish pale ale, and then bang, rhubarb and custard sweet. So I'm giving it 31 for flavour. I've knocked it back a few because of that. It's certainly not unpleasant, but it's just weird in the way that it works in terms of the flavour. Value for money, well, I don't even remember how much this was. I think it was probably £3, because this is a Morrison's beer. £3. It might have been £3.50, but it's still pretty good value. Supermarket pale. I'm giving it 8 out of 10. And then my overall experience, well, I mean, the way that I score overall experience is really about, you know, drinkability and, you know, would I want to drink more than one of them? It goes down well. If you like rhubarb and custard sweets, you should definitely try it, because it's got that flavour in it. And it's done very well in terms of that flavour. It really achieves that really well. But as a beer, it's a little bit too quirky. You're not going to be drinking more than one of these. It's just, you just wouldn't, you know. But it's a nice little palate cleanser maybe. It's something different to try. It's quirky, it's fun. And to be honest, it sort of, it does what it should do. It does that rhubarb and custard flavour of a beer. But it does taste when you drink it. I mean, I might sound like I'm talking absolute rubbish, but you've got to try it to believe it. Really, is that you get this pale ale, and it's like it's almost like you're tasting a pale ale that's got no alcohol in it. It's like an alcohol-free sort of beer, and it's so bland and flavourless. But then if you wait a few seconds, then you get this rhubarb and custard sweet. But, you know, if you're blindfolded, you'd almost say you're drinking a bland pale ale, and then someone's dropping a rhubarb and custard sweet in it, and then you're drinking it again, and then you get that hit of that. It needs to work together. There's just something that there's no synergy between those two things. So my overall experience, I'm giving it 12 out of 20. You've got to try it. I mean, it's a reasonably good value for money beer, so I'd say definitely try it. And just to get those flavours and go, oh, that's rhubarb and custard sweets. You can just sort of say, yeah, that's interesting. But you're not going to buy 4 of them. That's what you're not going to do. So we top those scores up and we get 76. So it's still a recommended beer. Definitely would recommend you try it. If you look at things like a rhubarb and custard beer, you might think, oh, it's a sour. And if you don't like sours, that might put you off. This is not a sour. There's no sourness at all in this beer at all. You are getting a pale ale with a rhubarb and custard spoiled sweet sort of almost dropped into it. That's the flavour. That's the best way of describing it. It's a solid, if unremarkable beer, but it's worth a try. It's one of those sort of beers you've got to try it once. And you can tell your friends, go, oh, taste this. What does that taste like? Always like that rhubarb and custard boiled sweet. And you go, yeah. And then you move on to a proper beer. Yeah, I mean, it's still got those flavours. It's an interesting beer to try, and I recommend anyone try it. If you like pale ales, and try it. It's very quirky. So 76 out of 100 White Snake beer. Slide it in slow and easy, And until the next one, keep on rocking.